Hello and welcome, everyone. Today is March 12th, 2022. I'm gathered with Michael again for our second session of the day on What Does the Bible Tell Us About Conspiracies? Session number 18. Yes, Michael, the Bible tells us a lot. And what do we have in store for us, Michael? Welcome.
What do I have? Well, I have the man who killed Kennedy, but actually this episode is more or less about LBJ. You see the official Protestants, but in reality the faithful Roman Catholic Sir Rainy Knight of Malta, Lyndon B. Johnson. Yeah, and when I was researching all the things surrounding Mr. LBJ, I found something very interesting, very interesting. I know that is much more into politics now at the moment than it is into the Bible, but I promise you so much that you will then see the assassination in a far different light when we have put all the necessary information together. So this is an extract here from the video series The Man Who Killed Kennedy. Of course, they don't do any connection to the church. That's quite clear. Yeah. Yeah, they spoke of Mr. LBJ as being ruthless. I found very interesting that they chose that very phrase, because JFK on his speech in Nevada Fostoria Hotel in 1961, he spoke of a ruthless conspiracy. Yeah, for we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy. That's what Mr. Kennedy said. Interesting. On this video, it's been said that there is a witness called Biddy Solestis who said there were 8 murders of Malcolm McWallace, and this was a hitman for Mr. Lyndon B. Johnson, Henry Marshall, etc., and also Josepha Johnson, that happens to be his own sister, so the sister of LBJ. I didn't go into this because I'm not yellow press here, but these are the 8 things pointed out by Biddy Solestis. He claimed LBJ had killed JFK, and that is, of course, a lie. Of course, he knew something, Mr. LBJ, but he did not kill the President Kennedy. I'm not convinced into this. He had an election into the Senate of Texas, and there was in 1948 a recount of 201 vote. An error happened to be in Alice, Texas. That very video The Man Who Killed Kennedy claimed. 1948 happened that, and the recount was 201 votes. And they speak about, there's a gematria and the code, it means CIA, 200 for Johnson and 1 for Stevens. But it would be very interesting to go into this, because 201 votes is the number of 201, 201. And in the end, there were only 87 votes out of 1 million for Lyndon B. Johnson, LBJ, not LJB here, and nicknamed Landslide Lyndon. And his actually real nickname is Lying Lyndon. And 201 votes, I said that's very hilarious, especially when you know that on Wikipedia they tell you it's 202. LBJ, they say, had to get Kennedy out of the way, because we know that he said that he wanted to become president in 1960 already. So this election box 13 scandal is very interesting when it comes down to politics. Box 13 scandal in Wikipedia. What does that indicate? The political scandal in Texas involving Lyndon B. Johnson and Coke Stevenson. They claim it has 202 additional ballots were found in precinct 13. Interesting. All of which were in Johnson's favor. They claim 202. Very interesting. So that is absolutely a margin, and that is just very, very strange what happens here in the documentary and in contrast to the Wikipedia article. Very interesting. So that you know that when the election took place in George W. Bush, there was some irregularities in the Florida, where also a member of the Bush family was in charge. And so that you see that, they will get their votes, they will get their positions at any cost. Huh? And Johnson was announced the winner of 87 votes out of 988,000. Yeah, yeah, but only after 202 or 201 additional ballots were found. Otherwise, if they were not have found, so you see that no votes would have been there to have the ballots to become a senator. So you know that there is this is a fraudulent election right from the start, and it happened in 1940. What was it? Well, 47 or 48? No, 1948. Can you imagine? So these are criminal methods already in 1948. Interesting, huh? A recount 201 vote error has been stated on that very documentary. And I said it's very interesting because 201 directly relates to the Jesuits. Don't believe me? You don't have to believe me, but you have to check the facts. A book from Marek Inglot, Society of Jesus, How the Jesuits Survived Their Suppression, the Society of Jesus in the Russian Empire. That's a book from a Jesuit. Okay. So, from its founding in 1514, the Society of Jesus has been one of the most important religious orders in the Catholic Church. However, it almost vanished from the pages of history when Pope Clement XIV suppressed the Jesuits worldwide on July the 21st, 1773. With the brief Dominic ad Redemptor, Catherine the Great of Russia saved the society almost single-handedly. She protected the 201 Jesuits. Remember, the documentary, The Man Who Killed Kennedy, claimed it was 201 votes. 201 Jesuits she had acquired in 1772 with the first partition of Poland, etc. 201 Jesuits. Remember, there was a certain interesting number of 201 popping up. That's event 201. A global exercise. Not only in Russia, but globally. But back to the Box 13 scandal. It happened in Texas. Yeah, of course, he was governor in Texas in the Senate, Mr. Lyndon B. Johnson. Therefore, he had ties, because until the assassination of Kennedy took place in Texas, he was in political power in Texas for 15 years. So he knew every man, every mouse, so to speak. Yeah, so that's key to understanding that right from the beginning, Lyndon B. Johnson was not playing right, but he was just tricking and have gotten some support from somebody who is really big in the game. Huh? Okay, so you know that he's got the right connections right from the start to become the official governor of Texas. Yeah. 1948, sitting in a helicopter during his Senate campaign in Texas. Yeah. Most notoriously corrupt election. Yeah. Right from the start. So he became, by tricks, senator, and he became, by tricks or by killing, then president. Isn't that a career? Isn't that a career, people? And what many people do not know is that a certain Mr. John Connelly was then Mr. Johnson's campaign manager, and he sent a telegram that read, "Unless miracle happens, looks like we're in." You know who John Connelly is? That is that very guy who is sitting in front of the president during his assassination. So you got in the car when Kennedy was shot, you got right in front of the car, who allegedly also has been shot, the governor John Connelly, who happened to be the campaign manager of Mr. Lyndon B. Johnson during the campaign for the Senate in 1948 in the state of Texas. You find that very strange, huh? That then the campaign manager then went to become a senator or governor of the Senate of Texas on its own. In 1936. So the guy who's sitting in front of the president is a big fellow of Lyndon B. Johnson as well. It's key to understanding, you see, that Mr. Kennedy was not surrounded by friends. Yeah, so Mr. Lyndon B. Johnson, you have to really thank him for being that straight. Yeah, he's absolutely straight. There's no doubt about it what he is. Yeah, he's only serving the people in power who want to see him in power. Yeah, and you see that is quite a difference in character between John F. Kennedy and Lyndon B. Johnson if you compare that very picture here, Brett. Yeah, either do you have muted your mic or something else, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I'm just absorbing this information because I haven't heard it before.
Yeah, yes, that's key to understanding that you really see that, but who's who in that assassination then. And so many things and many secret things have taken place. Certain Mr. Clark also happened to be a lawyer who was allegedly been in this assassination. And many other people and many strange events also. Mr. Dryhole Bird also was a businessman in Texas. And he went to Trinity University, and then he was forming the Civil Air Patrol, where also Lee Harvey Oswald, the elite shooter of JFK, was a member, and also many other CIA assets also as well. And he owned that very Texas School Book Depository building since the 1930s and at the time of the JFK assassination. And now, it's hilarious. He had the window from which the elite assassin shot at JFK removed and mounted on a wall of his home.
What?
Yeah.
Wow, that's strange.
I'd say he's not a fan of JFK, allegedly. He's more a fan of Lyndon B. Johnson also, yes. He's maybe a fan of Lee Harvey Oswald, huh? Why on earth would you replace that window and move it and mount it on a wall on your home?
Well, take a wild guess.
Yeah.
Maybe you're proud of it, eh?
Yeah. It was that window.
Just maybe.
It's very interesting that all the people who helped out Mr. Johnson was being awarded. For example, that Mr. Clark, who allegedly had something to do with the assassination, he became then the country's ambassador to Australia. Also very much big coincidences. And for my research now, it took a meeting place one day before the assassination on Clint Murchison's home, this oil millionaire. And it included J. Edgar Hoover from the FBI, Mr. Nixon, and Mr. LBJ. Huh? FBI, a future president who also was the opponent of Kennedy in 1960, and Mr. Johnson, who could not run for president due also to Mr. Kennedy in 1960. Yeah? So all the enemies of Kennedy gathered together one day before the assassination took place. From the book American Spy from E. Howard Hunt, My Secret History in the CIA Watergate and Beyond. There's a quote, I have copied a page out of it. It's called American Spy. He says, one of the great mysteries of the 20th century is whether there was a conspiracy to kill Kennedy. Let me say clearly that if there was such a scheme, I had nothing to do with it. Yeah, sure. I will believe him. No. He was not in Dallas. He was not part of a plot. He had no knowledge, so he does not know anything. So you know that he's not telling the truth. He's not telling the truth. He was the guy who said that the Jesuits were admiringly having the biggest secret service in the entire world. Yeah, that was him. That was him. And he says, conspiracy buffs have linked my name to the terrible crime. It started in 1975 with a book that I shall not name here, in which the authors published photographs of 3 bums who were arrested on Dealey Plaza that day, asserting that 2 of the men pictured myself and Frank Sturgis. The resemblance is only visible by somebody with an active imagination or someone examining doctored photos. The FBI was able to track down the bums, Gus Abrams, John Gedney, and Harold Doyle, whom they hauled in and interrogated. They didn't know me and I didn't know them. You see that everything what is related to pictures, photographs, and films can be manipulated. Therefore, this book and this source is not reliable. I'm a little bit lost here at the moment. I don't know why I have mentioned that here. Oh, he's mentioning about Cuba, Castro, that they wanted to poison the director's drink, and that his favorite guy was Manuel Artim. He studied medicine at the Jesuit college in Cuba, where he had planned to become a psychiatrist before joining Fidel in the Sierra Maestra. Yeah, we know that Fidel also was a Jesuit, so he was set up as an enemy, but has nothing to do with the assassinations that I would be aware of. So he says he's got absolutely no deal in belonging to the Kennedy assassination. But I have more interesting sources coming up now. For example, Jack Ruby, the man who allegedly shot LHO, so Lee Harvey Oswald, in the basement 2 days after the assassination. So he shot the alleged murder. So he officially shot the murder. That's what the official explanation is. And in that very, very short video of 11 seconds, he is pointing out, when being interrogated by journalists, he says, the answer is the man in office now, which means that the man in office now happening to be Lyndon B. Johnson. Let's look it up. This clip, I will insert it here.
Mention about Adlai Stevens, if he was vice president, there would never have been an assassination of our beloved President Kennedy. Would you explain again? Well, the answer is the man in office now.
If Adlai Stevenson wouldn't be vice president, there would be no assassination on our beloved President Kennedy. The answer is the man who is in office now. And that's what he's telling you. Yeah. So happened to be a fan of Kennedy, and therefore he shot this alleged assassin. Yeah. Don't believe anybody. He's a nightclub owner, and he's also CIA asset, so you don't have to believe him also. Yeah, so that, once again, from the last session, we are coming down to the Dallas Morning News once again, the last autograph of Dallas newspaper in the morning of his murder there. Maybe you remember that picture here, huh? And now I will not show the weather forecast, which I did in the last session, but I would like to draw your attention, please, on the upper right section of that newspaper. It says, Nixon says JFK may drop Johnson in 64. Is that a stunner? Yeah, so that is that very headline here. Nixon says JFK may drop Johnson in 64. So if that newspaper is authentic, then there were several thousand people who knew that Johnson would be pushed out of the political sphere. Yeah. So once again, who benefited from the assassination on John F. Kennedy? It was the vice president immediately. So he became, without any election, he became the vice president. And it is also very interesting to know, as far as my research goes, that he didn't even had to take the oath of becoming president, because he was becoming president in an instant when they declared the death of John F. Kennedy, without having to swear an oath. So that swearing an oath was just a confirmation on that alleged Bible. Yeah, so many people were then gathered together, Clinton, Murchison, Nixon, Hoover, and Johnson, as I have pointed out. In that meeting, which took place when he said, allegedly, after tomorrow, those SOBs will never embarrass me again. That's no threat, that's a promise. Ask Marilyn Brown. I don't know if she's reliable too. But it is not reliable to think of anybody else who was not involved in the assassination of Kennedy, so that you know that many people who were partaking in that actual last motorcade that JFK has ever witnessed or partaken of, they were against Kennedy. So he was surrounded by enemies. And not only that, he wasn't protected by the Secret Service as well. If it had not rained that morning, Jackie Kennedy had not been with him, if, then it would have happened in another place, in another time, but it would have happened, because there obviously were many people who were absolutely furious against John F. Kennedy. And he says, if it is correct, he says that it would not be a very difficult job to shoot the President of the United States. You only have to go up into a high building with a high-powered rifle with a telescopic sight, and there's nothing anybody can do. If that is correct, that is a self-fulfilling prophecy. I don't know if that is correct. I don't have to believe anything that any newspaper, any article, any source points out. I have to believe I have to use my common sense, and I have to use the Bible. Yeah? So they did not use any of the tops of the protection covers on the limousine. And also you see that it is very interesting that we would not go into the assassination so far now at this moment, because I want to show you some other things. Yeah, there is a certain Johnson Amendment. The Johnson Amendment is a provision in the United States tax code since 1954. Remember, he has been elected as a governor to Texas in 1948, so 6 years later, and 6 years before JFK was being elected president, that prohibits all 501c3 non-profit organizations from endorsing or opposing political candidates. The amendment is named for then Senator Lyndon B. Johnson of Texas, who introduced it in the preliminary draft of the law in July 1954. And now you might know why he was being appointed the Knight of Malta bread.
Yeah.
If he's not pro-Catholic, then I don't know who is. He is pro-Catholic. Yeah, speaking about non-profit organizations, that means that these churches also, they have to obey more or less the state to get rid of the tax payments and to be together under the 501c3 non-profit organizations. So they don't speak against the government or against some politicians who are then behind the scenes covered under the robe of the Sovereign Knights of Malta, for example. Yeah. On May the 4th, 2017, Donald Trump signed an executive order, quote, to defend the freedom of religion and speech for the purpose of easing the Johnson's Amendment restrictions. Yeah, but there is just in case and in fruition since 1954. 1954. So don't get me the fact that this guy is just another ordinary senator. So he's got much to do with religion, actually. Much to do with religion. From the book, Real Life at the White House, 200 Years of Daily Life at America's Most Famous Residents, from Claire Whitecomb and John Whitcomb, 2002, page 364. Here's a quote. Throughout his term, JFK had speculated about assassination and even about being shot while riding in an open car. His feeling about the Dallas trip was, quote, if they are going to get me, they will get me even in church, unquote. I found that really interesting that he is mentioning the church. The Secret Service wanted him to use the bulletproof bubble top on his car, a big Lincoln that traveled wherever he did, but Kennedy overruled them. That's the source who's quoting. Initially, it seems like the right decision. The President and the First Lady traveling with Lyndon and Lady Bird Johnson were received with warm enthusiasm in San Antonio, Houston, and Fort Worth. Jackie was overwhelmingly popular. At Dennis Airport, it was the same. Yeah. Yes, so that's a source, and I don't know if that source is reliable, dear listeners out there. But of course, it's Roman Catholic. His daughter Carolyn then asked Jackie, "Mommy, did they love Daddy?" And Jackie replied, "Oh yes, they love Daddy." But Carolyn shook her head. She didn't believe it. Quote, they didn't, or they wouldn't have done that to him. At Mort Shaw, the children's nanny had to tell the 3-year-old John his father had gone to heaven. Did Daddy take his big plane with him, he asked, and Miss Shaw told him he did. I wonder when he's coming back, John said, and see that is all Roman Catholic belief, that somebody is going automatically to heaven. Huh? From the book, John F. Kennedy, page 360. As president, when asked about the dangers of assassination, Kennedy answered, "I guess there is always the possibility, but that is what the Secret Service is for. I guess that is one of the less desirable aspects of the job. Like most modern presidents, he worried less about the attempts on his life than about the restrictions of White House life." Yeah. I would love to see that. And here is that quote on page 364. "If they are going to get me, they will even get me in church." Or during Mass, actually. There is a certain James William Fulbright who studied with a Rhodes stipendium at the Pembroke College at the University of Oxford in England, and he was becoming or promoting to be a master in 1928. Why did I mention him? Why is that video not running? It's running. Oh. Okay, this is German politics. You would not be interested in this. So another quote, "John F. Kennedy, while president, was honoring the principle of separation of church and state, which made him very unpopular in Vatican circles," quoting from the book Vatican USA 1973 from the author Nino Lobello, page 148, 149.
Oh, I think I have a book by him. We'll get it.
Forget it. Or what?
No. I said, I'm sorry. I'll go get it, I said.
Ah, sorry.
It's called The Vatican Empire. Yeah, by
Okay.
Nino Lobello.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't the book, is it?
Mm.
It just
Okay,
says
so-
Vatican there, but this says The Vatican Empire. An authoritative report that reveals the Vatican as a nerve center of high finance and penetrates the secrecy of papal wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, duh, just kidding. Yeah, just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very interesting book, that book. It is a cardinal rule. He tells about John Coleman was the first man to greet and shake hands with Pope Paul VI at Kennedy Airport on the occasion of his unprecedented trip to New York City several years ago when the Vatican had 30 million it wanted to invest in the New York stock market. Cardinal Spellman asked Mr. Coleman to handle the portfolio for the pontiff, which he did by investing most of the money in Boeing, Lockheed, National Steel, Douglas, and Curtiss stock. Let me ask you, who profited from the Vietnam War? Who did it? Isn't that interesting? But that they have really, really big money behind them. Yes, and we know that the father of JFK also was connected to Cardinal Spellman when it comes down to business. An interesting book here, this Vatican USA. It was Cardinal Vagnozzi who gave a so-called negative report to the Vatican on President John F. Kennedy. Involved in the report was a little publicized incident that took place in November 1961 when Cardinal Cicognani, the former apostolic delegate who had become Vatican secretary. Oh, I have to wait. Secretary of State, made an attempt to see the president on occasion on a return visit to the United States. On applying for an appointment for a courtesy call to the chief executive, the cardinal was informed that Mr. Kennedy was occupied with pressing matters. A second attempt by His Eminence was also frustrated by the White House, which said that the United States government did not officially recognize the Vatican government and that a visit by its Cardinal Secretary of State would embarrass the president. Bam! You got the right fist in your head. Huh? Deciding to pull some strings, then the Bishop Vagnozzi persuaded Cardinal Cicognani to stay in Washington at Extra Day and then got a prominent figure in the Kennedy administration who was a convert to Catholicism to try to set up a meeting. The White House finally yielded and made an appointment for the Holy See Secretary of State on condition that the visit be classified as a personal one. Accompanied by apostolic delegate Vagnozzi, Cardinal Cicognani arrived at the back door of the White House as per instructions and was escorted to the front door where the president greeted him formally. During the approximately 20 minutes that Mr. Kennedy stayed with the Vatican representatives, news photographers were denied an opportunity to take pictures. Yeah. That is the right noise to make, Brett.
I got another noise for you. You want to hear it?
Yeah. Okay. I suspected anything like this to happen.
Yeah, crash.
Yeah, but you see that you don't have to guess what kind of impact John F. Kennedy had on the Vatican if you would really think about and rely on that sources. Yeah. During his long residence in Washington as apostolic delegate, Cardinal Cicognani had been received by several presidents of Protestant affiliation. Oh, interesting, because John F. Kennedy was being seen as a Catholic president. The Catholic officer, therefore, had not expected the White House to give him a cold shoulder, but things got worse. 8 days later, when Protestant evangelist Billy Graham paid a courtesy call on President Kennedy, the carpet was literally laid out for him, in spite of the fact that Mr. Graham had gone to bat for Richard Nixon during the 1960 presidential campaign. Bishop Vagnozzi became even more disenchanted with JFK, a practicing Roman Catholic, when Mr. Kennedy refused to grant federal aid to parochial schools. Inside the Vatican, the name of John F. Kennedy had become mud.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's right. He said that in his speech about separation between
the
church
Catholic
and state.
candidate for president.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He did make it very clear, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he really meant it, actually.
Mm-hmm. It is really necessary to go in all the sources and then to compare them, and then you get the picture of what's really going on behind. These might seem like little things, but
they all add up, yes.
They all add up, yes. Actually, they all add up.
It's interesting, Michael, for our listeners that might not know, I'm a musician, and I've been recording for 30 years. And when you start on a song, usually start with just an idea, and then you add other instruments to the mix, and you just build up a bigger picture. And when you're going through the process of making a song, sometimes you'll make a little mistake or something like that, but actually the more you play your instrument, those mistakes actually give it a lot of character. And when you get done with the song, that usually ends up just nicely dovetailing together everything. So that's kind of how this works, is there's a little here, a little there, something over there, and something way back there, and something all across the world. All these different things, when you step back and you look at the situation again, all of a sudden, you've learned a little here, a little there, a little here, there, and something way back over there. And when you add all that up and you look again, you go, oh, yeah, wow. Now this makes a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you compare all the information which has been gathered together on the internet, then you see what actually that Kennedy was absolutely refusing to obey. Mm-hmm. And if you know that the ties from his brother, the ties from his father, Joseph Kennedy, then it even got worse, because Joseph Kennedy was in connection with the power of the Vatican with the Cardinal Spellman. Yeah, Cardinal Spellman had a problem and wanted Joe's help. Joe means the father of our president, John F. Kennedy. Yeah, and it's all about big money, really big money. It's all the same. You see that it's all about money and it's all about power, and it is futile to go in every nitty-gritty here. What I want to point out, that these people behind the scene, these people are connected to the church behind the scene, and there are absolutely no representative for any American population, Brad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
Even John F. Kennedy, you see, started out as a wealthy guy due to his father's millions. He did not have to starve. That's the key. Yeah, it's not a representative of the ordinary, of the poor guy, of the John Does. Yeah, Joe Kennedy's fortune, so his father's fortune, was variously estimated at between 250 million and $500 million, money which he made in stock speculation, the movies, liquor importing, real estate, oil ventures, and corporate reorganization.
Oh, and what year was that assessed? I mean, that's a huge amount of money back then.
Would be billions today. Billions.
Yeah, I mean, come on,
I think he would be on par with Donald Trump.
Right.
And I don't know if Donald Trump is as wealthy as he claims he is. You see that?
Probably not. He's just some kind of puppet. But anyway, I mean, Donaldius Trumpius, right? Yeah.
Yeah. All these numbers can be faked.
Well, everyone's got a part to play in this political theater. You see, so. If the big money is behind it all, they're just pulling the strings and, okay, which puppet wants to stand up next? Ronald Reagan, then we got George W. Bush, then we got, Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Oh.
You see all these people mentioned here, they were always sponsors for the Roman Catholic Church, and it gets worse. Although the Catholic Church is notoriously shy about releasing figures on contributions received each year from wills, gifts of stock, annuities, land and buildings, it is estimated to be the recipient of some 1 billion a year from these sources. 1 billion a year, at least. No small contributors to this annual sum are the upper middle class Catholic families who do not keep tight purse strings when funds are being raised for a special Catholic cause. Among the most general benefactors are members of the Knights of Malta, a fraternal organization, membership in which is considered a supreme honor for the Catholic layman. Membership in this society precludes, for the most part, anyone who is not prepared to give copiously and give promptly. When first mentioned for a nomination, a prospective knight is expected to contribute a certain amount of money, somewhere in the neighborhood of $5,000. Meeting but once a year, then usually gather for impressive ceremonies at St. Patrick Cathedral in New York City, during which the knights wear elaborate uniforms, plumes, and swords. There they attend a solemn high mass, which is presided over by the archbishop before going on to the big banquet, where they are invariably asked to make a handsome money, etc. And the rest you can guess on yourself.
Yeah, Michael, and we might add that the Knights of Columbus are very similar, very similar
branch
to the Knights of Malta. Yeah, it's the American branch, right? But the thing of it is that I wonder how many, just random lay people actually know about these things or care about these things.
Yeah, because people on the street do not discuss about religion.
I mean, why would they even care when they see their local Legion, hall where all the Freemasons gather? I mean, what difference is it between a Freemason and a Knight of Columbus? I mean, most wouldn't dare even ask because they don't care. Who cares? Well, I think if you knew your history behind it, you might start caring a little. Maybe.
Yeah, Protestant presidents were more charitable towards us than the president occupant of the White House, speaking of JFK. Yeah, that's the key to all the mess which started. It started out from
caring a little. Maybe.
Yeah, Protestant presidents were more charitable towards us than the president occupant of the White House, speaking of JFK. Yeah, that's the key to all the mess which started. It started out from JFK. And if I look at the time when it started all the mess in 1961, that was the time when in the end of the year, his father, Joe P. Kennedy, was having the stroke, when he was partly paralyzed and was confined into a wheelchair. And I guess maybe there was also some causes for that his father was also furious about his son, or his sons, actually, maybe also JFK and Robert, who wanted to be then adults, who wanted not to play by the flute or by the rule of his father, being a devout member of the Roman Catholic Church, being a friend of Francis Cardinal Spellman, etc., etc., etc.
You know that's usually how it works, because it's a biblical principle that the enemy, your enemies, will be of your own household. It says in Scripture. Mm-hmm. So of course, if it's the Lord's will that you are going to have a different opinion than your father or your mother, then so be it. Mm. Yeah. You can't change that. And obviously, JFK did not have the same convictions about the Pope now, did he?
He was bound to his so-called oath to the American legislation.
Yes.
Yeah, he set that bar higher than this his oath or his allegiance to the Pope, and that's what got him killed.
Yes.
In the end.
Right.
Yeah, because in the end it killed him because he was surrounded by people who were devout Roman Catholics. That's the key. That's the key, in my humble opinion.
Well, how can you not be when you're in that position of power? That's my question. How can you not be surrounded by papal knights?
Yeah, but I don't know. You see that you have to take into consideration the relative young age of JFK.
Sure.
So I don't know how much educated he was into knowing how the ties could be behind the curtain.
You've got a good point, Michael. Very good point. He may not have known.
Now he thought, okay, I've got my brother, I got some supporters, and that will do.
Yeah.
You see, you've got the entire CIA, FBI, and all the other NSA and what else, and Senate members and the church all against him.
Yeah,
and then you cannot take on that. You cannot take on that organization with just a few people.
And then you multiply that by all the years since this assassination has occurred till today, and all of the different instances and occasions for, Protestantism to get snuffed out. I mean, just look, there isn't any Protestant institutions left. No real Protestant institutions left. They're all gone, practically. There might be a little hint of it here, a hint of it there.
Ecumenism.
Yeah. I mean, it's just an incredible amount of energy that has been spent to defeat Protestant doctrine in the church. And they've succeeded. All you got to do is get yourself some old Protestant books from good writers and start studying. That's all you got to do, and you'll see it for yourself. Of course, you're not going to probably convince anyone, are you, Michael? These days, because everyone's so strong in their own.
These people are doing it for money and for their social benefit. They're not doing it out of conviction, I think.
That's right. Well, that's true, but then there's also the conviction that comes with Satan, too.
You cannot serve two masters. You can either serve God or the mammon, and these people in power all are serving the mammon, of course. Mammon is just another phrase, another code, another name, what else, another expression for Satan.
Well, yeah, it's like what President Bill Clinton said. He said that don't ever underestimate your enemy, didn't he?
Adversary, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Adversary, yeah.
That's right. Yeah, for example, here Colonel L. Fletcher Prouty in his book The Secret Team, the CIA and its allies in control of the United States and the world, It says Kennedy's battle was not all with the secret team. So he's mentioning the secret team. Yeah, I don't know if he knows or if he's not willingly giving away the information. He says that he was going through the same pressures with other groups, not the least of which was his quixotic contest with the immensely powerful and ruthless. Once again, ruthless, this code word. Professional education establishment and the equally powerful parochial Catholic school hierarchy. Yes, you see that ruthless has been, once again, used in combination with the Catholic school or Catholic church, if you see it in a more general term. Now you have to really think that you got encoded messages all over the place. Yeah, nobody is blaming it so directly than we do. Yeah. And he's got a prolific point in his book, actually. I will show that to you. Yeah, you see that is the page 419, Nightmares We Inherited. The ruthless professional education establishment. But it goes on that article, on that book here. Question: can the President of the United States ever be strong enough to really rule these two powerful agencies? Yeah, you see there are many agencies, FBI, CIA. Can any president learn about, comprehend, and then believe what he has learned about this whole covered and complex subject? Can any president see in this vast mechanism in which there is so much that is untrue and hidden, the heart and the core of the real problem? Will any president be prepared to confront this staggering realization when and if he does uncover it? If this is perhaps the great discovery which President Kennedy made or was about to make, it is not just the CIA and the DOD that are involved. It is also the FBI, the AEC, the DIA, elements of state and the executive official office building, NSA, and the hidden pulse of secret power coursing through almost every area of the body politic. It extends beyond into governmental business, the academic world, and certain very influential sectors of the press, radio, TV, etc. If you deal with secret societies, if you deal with secret services, yeah, even if you are the President of the United States, you won't get the entire truth. You only get reports. So you don't know what they are doing behind your back, necessarily. Before any president can rule this covered automatic control system, he must find out it is there. He must be aware of the fact it exists, and he must devise some mean to discover its concealed activity. Yeah, and that's the real problem with it. You see that if he says I will scatter the CIA into 1,000 pieces, for example, yeah, then you see that he's not only got the CIA against him, but other influential factors and companies too. Yeah, he says, is ever one event had greater influence upon the course of recent history than those shots ringing over Dealey Plaza in Dallas on November the 22nd. It would be hard to discover what it might be. The man who was to become president in 1969 had been in Dallas only 2 days before that, Richard Nixon, and in my humble opinion, and according to my sources, he was even in the evening before the assassination in Dallas. Richard Nixon felt the tensions of Dallas in the air in November 1963. He was pierced by the great shock of that staggering event. As the Bay of Pigs had seared John F. Kennedy, the tensions of Dallas seared Nixon. The man who would immediately succeed President Kennedy as president was in a car behind the president. No, he was 2 cars in behind the president. But nevertheless, he did not only have to read the Warren Commission report, which Alan Dulles, SMOM, once again, and others helped write to understand the voice of the oracle. That is the problem, actually, that you don't get the full information everywhere. You have to get it bit by bit by bit, like a big puzzle. And I hope that the puzzle is now getting more clearer and more clearer and more clearer. And I have told you last time that I think I know why this lying President Lyndon B. Johnson had that immense victory in his presidential campaign in 1964. It was not only due to his sympathy being vice president for 3 years, but he had made some campaigns, propaganda, you would say that, of Daisy of 1964, a presidential ad for the election of Lyndon B. Johnson into the presidency. And they are playing with the fear-mongering of the atomic age. Yeah, with little children, a thing which has always been played out. Remember all these alleged happenings in Iraq with the soldiers who were then in the hospital and then putting babies out and on the cold floor and killing babies and all the things. You see that everywhere. People or children especially will be used to manipulate people. So that's a problem here. I will insert that ad here.
From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
One, two, three, 4, 5, 7, 6, 8, 9,
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
These are the stakes. To make a world in which all of God's children can live, or to go into the dark. We must either love each other, or we must die.
Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd. The stakes are too high for you to stay home.
The media tells you who to love, who to hate, who to be afraid, who to trust, and what to think and what not to think. Free your mind from mental slavery. Yeah, that's the key to his success in 1964. The aim of the advertisement was to broadcast Johnson's anti-war and anti-nuclear positions. Please come on. Yeah, Johnson is the president who signed all the things necessary to start the Vietnam War. Anti-war. Huh? It's anti-war as he is anti-Catholic, huh? Or Protestants. It's all propaganda. There is even a second clip from a young girl licking ice, and it's about cesium, it's about radioactive things. You see that these were the things to do, these were the movies to influence the people, and he was having the biggest lead in any presidential voting since the beginning of any votes, any elections. Yeah. So with fear-mongering, it's the same as in 2022. It's the same concept. Okay, the content has changed, but the concept is the same.
Do you know what people used to do? They used to explode atomic bombs in the air. Now, children should have lots of vitamin A and calcium, but they shouldn't have any strontium-90 or cesium-137. These things come from atomic bombs, and they're radioactive. They can make you die. Do you know what people finally did? They got together and signed a nuclear test ban treaty, and then the radioactive poison started to go away. But now, there's a man who wants to be president of the United States, and he doesn't like this treaty. He fought against it. He even voted against it. He wants to go on testing more bombs. His name is Barry Goldwater, and if he's elected, they might start testing all over again.
Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd. The stakes are too high for you to stay home.
Yeah, that's what got him this victory. Yeah, 486 against 52. Of course, you only have to set up some Looney Tune, yeah, some loner here who will never make it. But the key and the understanding is that it's 486 to 52. That happened nowhere but in the American election system in 1964. And after that, you see the Vietnam War started full force. And it's also no coincidence that they are using the two colors of Freemasonry here, blue and red. So, coming to the last section of Lyndon B. Johnson. I hope to finish it in 10 minutes, because also we are running out of time. There was a Catholic priest who was born and raised in Germany. That name is Reverend Willibald Schneider. He served in Ireland and in Texas, USA for many years. Texas, you remember. Frater Schneider gained some notoriety as the priest called upon for guidance by non-Catholic, and this is a blatant lie, Brett, U.S. President Lyndon Johnson. Yeah? Frater Schneider was one of the officiants, along with Billy Graham, at President Johnson's funeral. Yeah, and he was been coming from the Francier Saint, so the saint, the Holy Francis Xavier in Stonewall, and of course this is all a code for being a Jesuitical education school, because Francis Xavier was a co-founder of the Societas Jesu. Yeah, so you see here this Frater Schneider together with Lyndon B. Johnson and Lady Bird Johnson. So the two people also who were present at the time of the assassination of JFK in Dealey Plaza. Huh? This is an oral history interview taken on the 21st of April in 1971 by a certain David McComb. Okay, and I got some interesting quotes of that. He says, skip it back. When I was in Rome, I had a wonderful, wonderful experience. This is worldwide to recall because it was most interesting. I was in Rome at a place called the Beta College. The college is a paper college for people who study for the priesthood who are advanced in age. I went to Rome in 1950. I was born in 1907. Consequently, I already was 43 years of age. Normally, the boys who study for the priesthood will be ordained at the age of 24 years of age or so. I was in Rome 3 years. I was 46 or 47 years of age when I was there. When I was in Rome, we had an audience with the Pope. That was Pope Pius X, a very fine man, although some tried to belittle him. I happened to meet Pope Pius XII. We had an audience with Pope Pius XII and all the family of the Beta College. We had about 50 students and the professors and directors and everybody. The Pope went from one to the other. He shook hands with everyone and talked a few words. When he came to me, somebody advised, said to me, if you ever talk to Pope Pius XII, talk in German with him because he knows and loves German. Yeah, he was papal nuncio in Munich, and I came from Bavaria, Munich, Father Schneider said. So when the Pope came to me and shook hands with me, I said, Ja, Heiliger Vater, which is the German equivalent to Yes, Holy Father. He says, oh, Sie sprechen Deutsch, so you speak German. The College of Beta was an English college, and that was in 1950 or 51, just 5 or 6 years after the war. He was so surprised that I, as a German, was in the Beta, an English college. He thought that it was almost impossible after a horrible war, and he asked me, how come you in this college? Well, I said, I live in Ireland, and I lived in England, and I like the English, and I like the Irish. I like them all. I have no enemies. This Pope Pius XII is so-called Hitler's Pope. Yep. Happened to be in the right place at the right spot, huh? Because they were meeting up with Hitler in 1922 already, long before he officially went into power. What is that for, huh? Then he asked me where I was to go when I was a priest. I said, I'm going to Texas. Yeah. My desire was to be a priest and to go, well, almost anywhere. And so I found a friend of mine in Ireland. He had a brother living in the United States. I think it was in Chicago somewhere. He wrote to his brother, and his brother was a priest. And he advised his brother back in Idaho to tell me I should write to Chicago to Bishop O'Brien, who would be in a situation to find a place for me. So right enough, he advised me to write to San Antonio, to Archbishop Lucy, the Catholic Archbishop of San Antonio. And so I did. So he went to Texas, and then we come to the most important part. We flew to Bonn, as in Germany, and then we came back to Air Force One. There were about 80 or 100 people on Air Force One. I nearly always was in company with the Secret Service because they wouldn't let me out of their sight since I got lost. Then on the way home, they invited me to play cards with them. It was poker, the Secret Service guys. Interesting that the Secret Service is playing poker with a priest, huh? I don't know why, but I won. I didn't want to win. On one occasion, President Johnson came into the main body of the aircraft. He had his private apartment and saw me playing poker, and he was so surprised. Then I didn't know whether he liked it or disliked it. I didn't know. However, about 10 minutes later, he sent in a pack of cards like this. And then we happened to know that the cards had the presidential seal. However, let us get back to the year 1961, because this was an occasion which I remember real well. 1961, LBJ was vice president then. He was there. I think he was here in church. No, I forget exactly when and where, but I remember that he asked me, Father Schneider, we are getting Company Sunday, and German Chancellor Adenauer is coming. You know, that is the 80-plus-year-old chancellor who happened to be in the one open vehicle in Germany, in Cologne, together with Kennedy. As you know, he's a very strict Catholic. Yeah, that's why he is Chancellor of Germany, of course. And he wouldn't miss Mass for anybody. I said, oh, what are we going to do about it? He said, well, I would like you to have a special Mass for him. I said, okay, that is okay. That was 1961. And in those days in the church, we had rules and regulations. In those days, we were not allowed to say Mass after noon hour, after 12 o'clock midday. However, I brushed these regulations aside and I said, no matter what happens, I'll say Mass when Adenauer comes. Because Adenauer and his party, about 20 members of the German government, came that Sunday morning from Washington. Yeah, so you see that they can do everything. If you are in power, if you are the head of a state, then you get your mask in the way you like it, huh? The way you like it. But you think that is not interesting information, then it comes now the big alarm bell. Yeah. That is the end of the session. And here comes the question to Father Schneider. Did Johnson ever say anything to you about the assassination of Kennedy and taking over office, all the troubles he had there? This is the answer of Father Schneider. No, not in particular, except that he would say there are problems in the Democratic Party. Yes, and of course, this is not necessarily for publication. Actually, a few weeks before Bobby Kennedy was assassinated, he told me, quote, Bobby gives us a lot of trouble in the party, unquote. And on that bombshell, I'd like to thank you for your time, for your research, for reading the Bible, and I'm handing it over to my beloved brother Brett, that he can sum it up.
Goodness gracious, Michael, you know, this is a lot to take in and a lot of information I've never heard before, but I do really appreciate what you're doing, because it's astounding how much was in place, of course, because it had to be. I mean, you know, this is the new Roman Empire, as far as I'm concerned. The papal Roman Empire, but in a modern context, not in an old context. That we think of the papal Roman Empire as being part of ancient history, whereas it's not. It's part of Catholicism, which is a two-party state, actually. You have both conservatives and you have liberals. So it's a lot to it. It's not just a simple thing. And there's a lot of different convictions people have about what they believe in terms of their tradition, because essentially, Catholicism is nothing more than tradition. And actually, that has rooted itself in all kinds of churches now. So, yeah, Michael, it's a really large picture that is coming about. And little pieces here and little pieces there, but definitely the Kennedys are involved in, some of the most sensitive parts of our history. And of course, all of it is suppressed. And that's what's so interesting about what we do here on these sessions, is we speak about suppressed history as much as we can, at least the suppression when it comes to Protestantism and its loss. We're looking at a broken, what can we say? A broken structure, an institution that once was, that was very great 500 years ago. And then today, well, of course, it had its problems too, of course. I mean, nothing comes easily in this life, it seems. It's very painful and hard to form a pure doctrine, if you will. And really, the pure doctrine comes from God. It doesn't come from us. So we have to give up on what we have established in our own fleshly members as, you know, the truth, because sometimes what we believe to be true actually turns out to be false. I know it's painful, but this is how it works. And little by little, we can draw closer to the laws and statutes that are in the Bible. And that's really the purpose of this, Michael, I think, is that we are to rid ourselves of all the fallacies and all of the double-minded thinking that exists in our modern way of life. And there's a bunch of it. It's not just a small amount. It's gargantuan, I believe. So again, thank you, Michael, and looking forward to continuing along the path of this history, of the suppressed history of the assassination of Kennedy. Thank you, Michael, and we'll see you next time, Maranatha.